Thank you, Meredith, and the CTIA team for 40 years of convening our wireless industry to advance connectivity. It is critical for our industry, more so now than ever, to collaborate across academia, policymakers, and government agencies to accelerate the innovation in order to fully leverage the potential of 5G. No one company, institution, or agency can do this alone. And today, I look forward to discuss with you where we are in the build-out of the actual 5G networks across the USA. I'll provide some first real examples from our own factory on how we're leveraging 5G to transform our operations. I want to discuss why it is so important for us and what it will take to stay ahead in 5G, what we're doing at Ericsson to accelerate 5G innovation in the US, and the call for action on what all of us need to do more of to focus on secure, sustainable, exponential growth across industries. We've made significant progress in building out the 5G network over the last couple of years. The FCC has auctioned out over 5,300 megahertz of spectrum since 2015. That's almost 8 times as much as all previous generations combined. 32 states plus Puerto Rico have passed small cell legislation. That's up from 21 states in 2018, which has enabled the industry to build 67,000 new sites in 2019 and 2020, which is as many sites as in the 8 preceding years. So tremendous progress, tremendous achievements. Our customers are spending to the tune of $30 billion a year in building out the networks. We already have 300 million population coverage in the low bands, 165 million population coverage in the mid-band. And that's where the real performance and the magic with 5G starts happening. And 75 cities today offer millimeter wave services where the most extreme performance then gets put to life. The administration is focused on closing the digital divide and accelerating broadband deployment with a proposed infrastructure bill, which now also has room for 5G fixed wireless investments, which is very important. So, while the platform is still under construction, we already see first very encouraging examples of how innovation is starting to happen on top of this platform. Let's talk about our very own examples from our smart factory, which we were able to open in Lewisville, Texas during the pandemic last year. And we could not have done that if it wasn't for our ability to leverage 5G, AI, XR, IoT, and edge computing to launch the factory and train our workers remotely. I'll talk more about that in a minute when I discuss some of the use cases. It's a $100 million investment for us, and it makes perfect sense because we're now closer to our customers, front runners globally, in turning around new product development and delivering to them. But it also has enabled us to experiment with our own technology and see how it can transform our operations. And I will give you 3 examples out of many use cases that we have and continue to pilot in our own factory. We have leveraged connected autonomous guided vehicles and seen a significant 65% reduction in manual material handling. Digital twin technology, which has allowed us to reduce unplanned downtime by 50%. We've seen a 25% improvement in production capacity and a 30% reduction of errors and waste in our operations. And then augmented reality. We have seen impressive results leveraging augmented reality. As a matter of fact, we could not have launched the factory if it wasn't for 5G and augmented reality. We trained our factory workers on machines and equipment that had still not been deployed on the factory shop floor by leveraging augmented reality and having experts and equipment in remote locations, other factories across the Ericsson footprint, training our newly hired workers in Texas, Lewisville, without flying in the experts. Going forward, we have seen that with every new product introduction we've had in the factory, again, our factory workers are able to be trained on that, leveraging augmented reality, reducing travel time, the necessity to fly in experts by 40%. And we've also seen a 5% decrease in equipment downtime by leveraging this technology. These and other use cases have yielded truly impressive triple bottom line results. On the people side, we see our employees working in very different ways in this 4.0, Industry 4.0 world. AI enables continuous learning, allowing our staff to execute increasingly advanced tasks with real-time access to remote AI and expert support. We see safer working conditions by removing a lot of the manual intense labor, and it's a great example of bringing high-tech manufacturing back to the US. On the planet side, this factory is now powered 100% by renewable electricity. We have seen a 24% reduction in energy consumption leveraging these technologies and 75% less indoor water usage. We have already achieved LEED Gold certification, and we're on a solid path to obtain LEED Zero, carbon neutral certification in the not too distant future. On the profitability side, we've seen a 2.2x improvement in productivity per employee already at this early stage. 65% reduction in material handling, 75% reduction in lead times. These achievements have now been recognized by World Economic Forum that recently named us 1 out of 7 global Lighthouse 4.0 factories in the US. We're obviously very proud of this recognition. Lighthouse Factories are the world's most advanced factories, leading the way in the adoption of fourth industrial revolution technologies. So our example may be a small one, but if we can make the case for relocating high-tech manufacturing to the US, then imagine the possibilities across industries. As a matter of fact, it's the first time wireless equipment is being produced in the US for 2 decades. It was not since 2G that we have been able to make the case to produce wireless equipment in the US. So again, we think this is a great example and hopefully serves as inspiration for many other industries. And all it really takes is a handful of these use cases to secure the return of the investment of making the network available. And then you just continue innovating on top of it, and we expect to see much more value generated in terms of triple bottom line impact as we continue experimenting with more and more use cases on this same infrastructure. This is also the reason why nations across the world are racing to make their national 5G innovation platforms available to their domestic industries and developer ecosystems. This competition has led to an accelerated 5G network build globally. We're tracking 2 years faster than we did with 4G. Already today, we have 176 5G networks live globally, with many more on the way. Last month, we saw the South Korean Ministry of Communications and Technology announce plans to create 2,000 new companies specializing on the 5G services to be built on top of these networks in the next 5 years. That's up from about 100 companies that are working on it today. And the South Korean government and the business sector have committed to spending $30 billion together over the next 5 years, 80% government, 20% private sector, to accelerate the innovation in data, in leveraging data and AI on top of the 5G networks and driving value on top of that. All these efforts are targeting the innovation to take place on top of the 5G networks. That's where the real action will be, just like in 4G, but I would think much more impactful. So, we must now stay exceptionally focused and keep up the pace in building out the high-performance 5G network platform to enable differentiated services based on unique latency, throughput, device density capabilities that these high-performing 5G networks have to enable innovation to happen on top. We need to do more work and intensify the cross-industry collaboration with the public sector to accelerate innovation across mutually reinforcing technologies. AI, XR, IoT, and edge computing all benefit from each other and get amplified with the potential of 5G. So it's the combination of disruptive innovation across all that creates truly unique capabilities for the innovation to happen. So, last but not least, and probably most critically, we need to expose these capabilities to developer ecosystems in an open, intuitive, and programmable way for this real magic to happen. Our commitment, and we've been in the US now for 120 years, we're part of the national fabric. We work with over 20 leading universities across the country. We have long-standing strategic partnerships with most of the leading high-tech companies in the US, Intel, Qualcomm, HP, AWS, Google, Microsoft, you name them, and many, many more. We have partnered with our leading customers from day one to actually accelerate the 3GPP standardization of 5G, which put us in the unique position to launch 5G ahead of any other country already in 2018. That partnership with the front-runner customers in the US enables us to continue influencing standardization efforts and to continue pioneering new features and functionality and services in the US in partnership with our customers. So we continue leading in the global 5G race. We're leading the evolution to increasingly open network architectures with our Cloud RAN offering and our efforts in Open RAN. And we have opened up a number of innovation centers, Ericsson Open Lab, D15 in Silicon Valley, where we try to create a venue for our customers and partners to meet with developers, expose the 5G platform capabilities, and bring in developers to see what they can innovate on top of that platform. We need your support to continue supporting the expedited build-out of the innovation platform, which is the foundation for all of this great innovation. To continue expediting the build-out of the 5G network platform, we, however, need to focus on three things. Spectrum. The FCC and the NTIA need to continue to working together hard to develop a spectrum pipeline. The focus needs to be the mid-band 3.1 to 3.5 megahertz. And we also need to start thinking about 6G. We need to plan ahead. I think the lesson learned with the 5G rollout, where we had a blind spot in the mid-band with 3.5, is an important lesson to build on as we think about spectrum allocation in 6G. Second, if it comes to infrastructure development, Congress, the FCC, and many states have done a great job in helping industry lower the barriers to accelerate the deployment of new cell sites. But many challenges remain, and I think it's time for more intense private-public partnerships to educate local municipalities and communities on the value of 5G and figure out how we can continue accelerating the network build, which will be very critical to drive and enable the type of innovation we're talking about here. And it's also important to recognize that the US leads the world with an open, attractive, predictable investment climate, which attracts over multiple billions of dollars in R&D investment in the industry, tens of billions of dollars in infrastructure investment every year. And the key is that we want to make sure we don't create any uncertainty that could undermine these investments. So one additional area to focus on is IP laws. It is very important that the US continue its leadership to uphold strong IP laws so that inventors are protected, incentivized to continue investing in creating in patents and new technologies, and that we strike a fine balance between the inventors of technology and the implementers. The US has led the way, and we hope will continue to leading the way for decades to come. With that, industry and the US government really needs to focus on the larger opportunity. 5G will enable unprecedented, sustainable, and exponential growth. It is our responsibility to empower developers to imagine possible. Thank you.